And it will be Montgomery trying to pick a hole. He found the right one. Shakes a tackler. Out of play near midfield. Montgomery on 2nd and 1. Gets the corner. And brings it back inside. Puts his hand down to keep his balance. To the 37-yard line. A block here on 3rd and goal from the 1. Montgomery over the top. Pay dirt. Touchdown. Iowa State.
Drink up, everybody! The Chicago Bears have selected David Montgomery from Iowa State. Did you hear those sirens after he scored that touchdown? With me are Matt Karstensen, Shane Marshaw, and Danny Shimon will join us briefly. Shane, how are you feeling right now? Take 2, by the way.
There's a little bit of deja vu, right? No, I'm feeling good. I think our GM read the board right. I was sitting here with my one brother-in-law and we were talking, and I saw Henderson go, and I had sent out a tweet, unfortunately, that said the way that the board was setting up, I kind of expected maybe the Bears to be a player to trade back with the amount of players that were still left, and then next thing you know, you see Chicago up there, and I'm like, whoa, here we go. So kind of expected it to be, I was thinking maybe Carr's guy Sternberger or the running back, and he did. He went after his guy, number 32, David Montgomery, and I think he's going to be a perfect fit here for Nagy. It's obviously a huge part of his offense, and it's going to be fun to watch.
And before I bring Matt in, Shane, quickly go over the details of the trade so that way I can start asking questions in the chat room and people are fully aware of what the details are.
All right, the Chicago Bears traded number 87 overall in the 3rd round. They traded their 5th rounder, number 162 overall, and a 2020 4th round pick. And in return, they got number 73 overall that they used on running back David Montgomery. And they got back number 205 overall in the 6th round. So I think it's key that we got to keep our 4th rounder, for tomorrow. That's a big, big deal right there. And Aldo, you and I were talking a little bit before. Don't forget, don't worry about 2020. Don't worry about a 4th round pick. You have 2 second rounders that you can move around with next year. And the key to all this, don't forget, we're going to be getting comp picks next year. Mm-hmm. Adrian Amos is scheduled to be around a 4th round pick, so you can kind of supplement that 4th rounder that's out with, receiving one back for Adrian Amos. So that's something that you got to keep in mind.
Okay, Matt, you know the details. You know this player, David Montgomery. Give me your grade on this trade and fill in the blanks on why you feel the way you feel.
I'd give it a solid A. I mean, when you really look at, you identify a need, you identify a player, it's just a win. And when you get the guy that you want, you don't really have to give up, as Shane mentioned, the 4th rounder this year. It just made a whole lot of sense, right? I think there's some interest and belief that the Pack were in on it and jumping them to make sure that they didn't get him. I think it made the move make a lot more sense. For why I like him, he's really an upgraded Jordan Howard. So I was even giving him some comps to the old ultra back, Raymond Harris. He's just very sudden in his moves, where Howard was more of a plotter. He could make his cuts. He had good visions, but he wasn't quick to the hole. Nothing sudden about him. Montgomery is just going to hit that hole fast. He's going to make quick moves. It always looks like he's going to go down and he makes a quick move and he keeps going for more yardage. It's just going to keep the clock moving, and you can use him in passing situations. So it's a win all around for us.
But Carr's Peter Bukowski said he's a slower Jordan Howard.
Well, I don't know that there's a slower Jordan Howard compared to last year, but we'll figure that out. I'm still learning the Peter Bukowski form of football. So,
Aldo, is this the part in the show where I call Peter Bukowski a cunt? I mean, can I do that?
Oh, darn, I forgot to say a disclaimer at the top of the show. This show may not be suitable for some audiences. All right, right, I want to bring in Dan Shanka's tweet here. He says, Bears fans, you got your guy, exclamation point. David Montgomery. He is a chains mover that constantly breaks through initial contact and picks up plenty of yards after contact with a running style that breeds balance and vision. His hands are a weapon. Every down starter written all over him. Friend of the barroom, Greg Gabriel. If there was a back in this draft that can do for the Bears what Kareem Hunt did for the Chiefs, it's David Montgomery. Very similar styles, and Montgomery has excellent character. How about that, Cars? You gotta love a guy who's going to come in to this locker room and lead, as opposed to someone you're going to worry about what he's going to be doing on a Saturday night.
You know, they did have to spend off seasons worrying if Jordan Howard is going to come in shape, right? He didn't come in shape his rookie year. He definitely didn't come in shape last year. That's not going to be a worry for this guy. So, yeah, he's a guy who's used to be in the entire offense, and he's going to put in the work to make sure he's healthy every game. So this is I can't stop smiling. It's ridiculous right now.
Shane, I know that he wasn't exactly number one on your board. In fact, did you like Damian Harris more than Montgomery in this draft?
Yeah, overall I did. Yep, I had him just a bit over. I like Damian Harris more than I liked Jacobs.
Right.
And I know a lot of people didn't agree with me, but that's just the way that I had them. I told you, Aldo, and Carter's doesn't know this yet, but my two other brother-in-laws, three of my favorite backs in the draft were, Montgomery, Singletary, and Miles Sanders. And myself and two brother-in-laws, we got all three of them on our favorite teams. So that was kind of random. But to get back to our guy, Montgomery, Cars, I know you spent a lot of time watching this guy. I'm not sure I see a guy in the draft that was better with contact balance once the way that he absorbed the hits. And we go back to that playoff game. We're going to go back to that 3rd and 1 play when Howard could have housed it. He could not maintain his balance. David Montgomery, I don't care. He's not a burner. That's a house call for him. It's game over right there.
Yeah, he just does not fall, and his legs are constantly churning. He's constantly moving. He's doing everything he can to kind of shimmy off of that last hit. You're just going to see a big difference in what that means. And so, Cohen couldn't have been as effective this last season running because we just weren't getting that inside presence. We just weren't wearing down opposing defenses. When you combine Montgomery with Mike Davis now in that, you got some guys that are going to drop some shoulders and really try to punish some other people. All it's going to do is make Cohen even more dangerous when he's on the field.
Nate in the chat room has given us an idea for a new T-shirt, and this was inspired by both of you guys, Cars and Shane. It would read, Peter Bukaki is a cunt.
I mean, I will drink to that one.
Yeah. I just talked to Peter's mother, and she doesn't like him either, so it's fine. I think we're safe.
Kieran Hall, our friend from Ireland across the pond, he says that this trade reminds him of the Anthony Miller pick from last year, and he's so happy about it. Shane, I think that's a great comparison. This does feel a little bit like we've landed Anthony Miller all over again.
Do you remember last year, Aldo, when we went on live after the picks,
right,
and we're sitting there and we're talking about James Daniels and what we're going to do, and
right,
I actually think Trey was on the line with us, and he's like, what? Hold up, motherfuckers. The Bears are back on the clock. And we're like, what? No, they're not. Then, boom, they were there. And, and this is the benefit to having a contender. When you're a team that's building, you get very upset when you're losing picks. But the Bears have a very deep roster, so you have to be able to you target your guys, and when they're there, you make the move to go get them. Because, Cars, you brought up, all the talking that I've done tonight already with everybody about this. I already forgot about Mike Davis. He's an easy guy to forget about in this offense. You have Cohen, Davis, and now Montgomery, and all three of them are versatile. I mean, Davis had 30? Did he have 30 catches or right around there?
Right, 34
this year in Seattle. So there's not going to be any more of that. Oh, number 24 is in the game, so we know that the Bears are running the football. That's going to be taken off off the map now because, I mean, it's a pick your poison backfield now. It really is because all three guys have all that versatility. And that what's the name of the game in NFL in 2019? Versatility. You want to put as many guys out there that can make plays catching the football, running the football. And we have three guys at the top of our running back depth chart that can do all of those.
And to step onto that, the Bears. We always ask why Cohen and Howard weren't on the backfield at the same time more frequently, and it was because of that fact. You're now going to see a lot more two running back sets with Cohen and either Davis or Montgomery, and you can do two tight end sets, right? I think that they passing over Jace really shows how high they are on Shaheen. Now they're just going to have all these different mismatch opportunities. You're not going to know who's running the ball or who's catching it at any point in time, and that's a huge advantage for us.
Over at theathletic.com, Dane Brugler and his draft evaluation of David Montgomery, he had him ranked number 3 overall. But over in the weaknesses area, he complained a little bit about the fact that he didn't have a big plays in 2018. He had 0 rushes of 40-plus yards and only 2 rushes of 30-plus yards. Cars, you think that's an issue?
Well, I would ask Dane to name one other player on the Iowa State offense at that point. Iowa State really didn't try to fool a whole lot of people. It was here, we're going to go big package. We're just going to give him the ball, and we're just going to see what happens. So, like we always said, Jordan Howard faced a lot of 8 men in the box. If you look at tape, there's 10, 11 guys in the box whenever Iowa State played. So I don't put a whole lot into that. There's going to be more we can do with play calling at this level. But I expect 40-yard runs. I'm not expecting 60 or 80-yard runs out of them. So it's pick your poison, really.
Shane, any thoughts on that Brugler point? Big plays?
Well, I love Brugler. I love his draft knowledge, but I think people get lost in that. That I think when you're looking back at a back like Darrell Henderson, I think fans and draft analysts alike get intoxicated by the big, huge, explosive plays that they're untouched for 60 yards. Of course, everybody loves to see that. How many of those do you see in the NFL? They're few and far between. A huge play in the NFL in the running game is 15 yards, 17 yards. And then you're getting 3, 4, 5. And then if you pop off a 24-yarder, so it's there. Is he explosive like a Todd Gurley or Jamal Charles was? No, he's not. But he doesn't need to be because he is a guy that. Hey, Cars, is there who you think of Matt Nagy scheming this guy open in the passing game and along with Cohen, and it's like I said, this is the pick your poison backfield.
Well, it's absolutely, and when you look at it, the way that the NFL has changed, I think 6 running backs had more than 10 20-yard rushes last year. So I mean, it's not something that happens as frequently because everybody's going into nickel. There's always people deeper. We're not seeing as many overloaded boxes as we used to.
Yeah.
So once you get to that second level, there's always someone there. There's never a clearing in there. So it's not as big of a deal. And to your point about scheming people open, yeah, once people aren't aware of where the ball is going, who's going to run it, if you're going to split out Cohen wide, and then you're going to bring him into the backfield, then you can potentially move Montgomery wide or vice versa, right? You're just going to keep opposing defenses on their toes. They're not going to be able to load the box, and that's going to give him some more opportunities.
Shane, I want to get your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers drafting a tight end that we had an eye on. And while I'm getting your response, I'm going to ask Cars to kind of take a look at how the NFC North teams have drafted, and then you can follow up with a report on what our main competitors are. But Shane, why don't you? Shane is already laughing.
The report is right there in your trash can, Cars, for the rest of the NFC North.
I actually have to finish regurgitating it. It was so disgusting, but I'll get it over to you shortly.
Yeah, I'll be quite honest. The two, not to step on Cars' toes here with the report of the NFC North picks, but the 2 tight end picks in the NFC North with the Minnesota and with Green Bay were my 2 picks that I didn't like to see come here was Sternberger and Irv from Alabama. Go down, or go to Minnesota. But back to Sternberger himself, I think unfortunately it's a perfect fit in Green Bay. They need that guy. They went out and, I don't know, what did they give Jimmy Graham, $10 million, I think, to come there and be that guy. And, Sternberger, Cars, he's got some rawness to him, obviously, still, but he's got a ton of upside there. And when you're playing with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who hopefully, and I think we all tend to think that it's on the decline a little bit there, and the organization as a whole is kind of heading south. But Sternberger is a big, big pickup for them. I said, as soon as I saw Green Bay, I sent Cars a text. I'm like, oh, shit, man, your boy just went to Green Bay. And he's like, oh, no. And it's, usually that's the way it goes. You have a favorite, and if you don't get him, he goes to a division rival. But I think he's going to be a perfect fit up there.
All right, Matt, what do you got?
Well, so Minnesota's probably had a solid draft, but I don't know what to expect of it. So I'm a big fan of Irv Smith as well, but I think that means that they're going to have to move from Kyle Rudolph. So that's going to be a trade-off, right? Rudolph is the only guy in the top 15 paid Vikings that's got no dead money, and they've got no cap space. Mm-hmm. So when it's Irv for Kyle, it's not so much of a big deal. Bradbury, I'm a big fan of. It doesn't fix everything, right? It's going to be the start. I don't know if Elflein at guard is going to be a great move for them. They still got tackle issues. Green Bay, that one's interesting. So I like the Savage pick. I don't know necessarily that I like him teamed up with Amos. I don't like the Gary pick. I don't like the Jenkins pick. Those two don't make a tremendous amount of sense to me. The Sternberger pick, that's a home run. When I look at Detroit, I mean, what the hell are they doing?
Really?
How is it, Shane and I were texting, like, how is it in 2019 you draft a 2-down linebacker in the second round who is a plotter, who has poor reaction skills? You draft a tight end when you've got in the first round with Ed Oliver out there, you've got holes all over. It's just a mess.
Aldo, I don't know if you can bring it up, but Ryan Pace is stepping to the podium right now.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
You want to look into that? Go ahead, Gar. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. So, I mean, and then they type it up with Will Harris. Obviously, they've got a ton of defensive back seven issues. I'm not big on Will because he's a great run defender. I just don't see a lot of turnover capability from him, and that was something that they really struggled with last year. So I think Minnesota, to me, has probably had the best draft of everybody, but it's going to be in an incremental state. Green Bay, I could be wrong, but when you start with Gary, it just doesn't give me a lot of confidence you know what the hell you're doing.
Okay. I don't think he has started yet, but as soon as he starts, we'll break in. But I do see that it says the live press conference will begin momentarily, so we'll see if we can pick it up in progress. Getting back to this NFC North, I had a thought. I was just looking at the Vikings roster real quick because I know that they do have some salary cap concerns. And Cars, you brought up the Kyle Rudolph not having any dead cap issues. So they've got Irv Smith, Rudolph, David Morgan, Cole Hikunitini, who I don't know much about, Tyler Conklin at the tight end position. I was just wondering, could it be possible that Rudolph could be one of those veterans that's cut, before June 1st, and perhaps, the Bears might be interested in a guy like that. But that sounds pretty far-fetched as I'm saying it out loud. You agree with me, Cars?
So they're going to have to move him, right? They've got, I think, just under $2 million in cap space right now. And there's been all sorts of rumors ahead that they were looking to move him. That matching the Anthony Barr deal was a big mistake from a salary cap perspective for them, and they're going to have to cut someone. So they're going to obviously look around and see if they can get value for him. But I think there's a good chance he's going to be on the market free if they can't figure something out here quick.
All right, Ryan Pace is getting set here at the podium. Let's see if we can pick up this audio.
14 spots, a future 4. We flipped to 5 and a 6. The running back, outstanding production, vision, instincts, contact balance. He's elusive in the hole. And on top of that, he has unbelievable makeup and character. So we couldn't be happier to have him as part of our organization. Everyone in the draft room is excited. Coaches are excited. But we still got, some productive days ahead of us. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
When you traded up again, were you sensing kind of a run on running backs? I know another one went right behind.
It wasn't just the running backs. It was, a player we identified on the board where that magnet's kind of sticking out. And, where we valued him. And so we kind of operate with a no regrets mindset. So let's go ahead and move up and acquire this player at that point. So
What will he bring to the backfield, Ryan, that maybe was missing from that group last year?
he's just a good, all well-rounded player. So I don't know if, I want to say something was missing. I want to talk more about what he does. And it's just, he's just a well-rounded back. So it's everything you look for in a running back, starting with his instincts, his vision, his ability to make people miss. He's just a well-rounded player, good hands, and so he fits the offense very well.
How much did he do in the passing game at Iowa State? How would you describe his participation there? Did they remove him from the formation at all? And can he run?
Yeah, he can. With any college football nowadays, I feel like you got to look at a lot of tape to find examples of that. But we felt very comfortable with that. I would say, he has natural hands. He's good out of the backfield. This is a player I saw play live in his bowl game. So we're very comfortable with the total package that he brings.
You said he has an unbelievable character. What impressed you most about him as a person, like when he was here or when you talked to him?
Yeah, Larry, we spent a lot of time with him. We interviewed him at the Combine. We brought him here on a 30 visit. He's just there's numerous stories coming out of his school where just his work ethic and his professionalism and how he treats the staff and how coachable he is, and he has a chip on his shoulder. You can definitely tell his desire to be great, and I think you can feel that when you meet him, and you can feel that when you watch him play, to be honest.
How did your vision and Matt's vision align on David?
There's so many discussions that him and I have, and so many times that we watch film together and have these things. It was that vision was aligned a long time ago. So tonight was very easy, and we were both very excited when it came together.
He was hard on himself about his combine numbers, that he thought he could have done better. Did you guys see that, and do you like that about him, that he was hard on himself?
Yeah, you can tell, even when he was here, you can tell he's very extremely driven. You feel that in his personality. And the combine numbers, I think when you watch this guy play, you can see the burst that he plays with, the acceleration that he plays with. So that was a non-issue for us.
You talk so much about instincts with the running back. In what ways did his instincts show?
You can just, the ability to find a small crease, the ability to find a running lane. He's very, a lot of times it's not going to be clean. It's going to, like with a quarterback, it's going to be a little dirty, a little gray. And his ability to make something happen when everything's not blocked perfectly stands out.
Do you envision David and Mike Davis competing for the starting job this season?
We envision a scenario where they're all contributing in different areas, Brad. So we feel good about that room now, really good about that room. They all bring a little bit of different things to the table. And Matt and I were just talking about it, the different things we can do with all the backs in that room.
Ryan, given the void you guys had at running back, was there a good likelihood you guys are going to trade up to make sure you got your guy tonight?
No, it was really serious. It was take the best player. So, and it worked out, and that's the position. And again, this guy checks all the boxes for us, not only as a player but also the person that he is. So the draft really fell in our favor tonight.
Ryan, how did you expect the running back draft, or the draft among running backs would shake out, and did it go about the way you thought?
I think our guys did a good job. Our scouts did a good job. Josh and Mark Sadowski and Champ Kelly really predicting how this draft was going to unfold. And I would say thus far the draft's been pretty predictable. So to answer your question, I would say it kind of went how we thought.
Ryan, what did you learn about the impact that David had in sort of breathing life into that Iowa State program with some of the background you did?
Yeah, there's incredible stories about his work ethic and, going up to the facility and late at night and bringing teammates with him to watch additional tape and get extra work in. And you just hear one thing after another about his professional approach to the game, how important it is to him, and his work ethic is off the charts, and how infectious that was to the entire team there.
Ryan, did you see indicators in Montgomery that kind of show he can do even more in this particular offense in the NFL than he did at Iowa State even?
Yeah, I think sometimes with all these running backs, Mark, you're looking at projecting more in the pass game too, what they can do. And we feel like he can be a good route runner, and I think that can be expanded more. And he has very natural hands. So to answer your question, yeah, I think just through the workouts and our vision for him, his game can be expanded.
I go off at some former coaches and some analysts that compare him to Big Hunt. Do you see the same thing?
I think, obviously, there's some coaching parallels there with him. I think you start with the instincts and the contact balance. David Montgomery breaks a ton of tackles. I mean, he's just the kind of guy where there's guys bouncing off him left and right, and it's very easy for him to not only, a lot of guys can break tackles, but then they'll lose their balance. He has the ability to break tackles and keep his feet continued for positive yards.
Ryan, you said you're at his bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Was that did you kind of know about him earlier on, and then kind of wanted to see him in person? And what was kind of your impressions from that game?
Yeah, our scouts do a good job of just kind of giving me a heads up on when I get at that time of year, and just when you see these guys live, sometimes it's just a different perspective, and I think you just appreciate. The thing that stood out to me is how athletic he was for his size.
Right, I know you said running back wasn't the big priority we saw it as, but does this make tomorrow a little bit easier as far as filling holes, depth?
Yeah, we like looking at the board right now and kind of and where we're at, I feel really good about the draft tomorrow. I think I said it a couple days ago. This is a very deep draft, especially in the later rounds, and I think we're going to be able to hit a lot of good players tomorrow.
Given what goes into the decision, Chris, to trade a 2020 pick, your 2020 board now without a 1, without a 3, without a 4?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, we don't take that lightly. We operate very responsible with that, and it just depends on the magnitude of the player. And so for us, I say it all the time, Matt and I say, hey, no regrets. If we see something, we identify something, and we have consensus on it, then we're gonna make it happen.
When you say he's the best player available, was he the last remaining player of like a cloud of players?
Yeah, I would say just kind of his. It's not even a magnet anymore. That's a digital board now. But his name was sticking high enough on our board where we wanted to make sure we got him, and we didn't want to risk him going off before our pick.
How did the mechanism of the trade work? So when you see him there, who called whom? Did the Patriots call you? Did you make the call? Was that the first time you tried to trade up to get him?
Yeah, Moon, we were working the phones right there in that area of the draft, and we've done several trades with the Patriots now. They're great to work with, Nick Caserio and Coach Belichick, and then in our draft room, Joey Lane does a really good job of working with me to ensure we can make that happen because in this round the clock's clicking down pretty fast, so it can get kind of tense as you're getting in within 1 minute, but we made it work.
Right, what left an impression on you
From his 30 visit here, what was the lasting impact of that?
How driven he is, how focused he is, how motivated he is to be great. You can feel that. How humble he is. So there's this great sense of drive, but also very humble.
Ryan, I think a back was taken right after you got Montgomery. Did you have any kind of intelligence or inkling of where you had to move to get him?
Good question, but no, it was just again, we just knew this was kind of the sweet spot for him, and his name was high on our board, and we wanted to ensure we get him. So we didn't have any kind of intel, hey, we need to go now. It wasn't like that. It was just, let's make sure we get this player that we all have conviction on.
Given the room, the way it's comprised now, how do you feel like it helps Mitch?
The entire...
The running backs room, and what that position can do in different ways.
Any weapons we can surround him with, and I think right now we continue to add weapons. They're all different, a lot of different variety. And then, fortunately, we have a coaching staff that can fully utilize those guys. So, I mean, already you can all the coaches are up there right now talking about different packages they can use. So that's exciting.
I know you said you want those running backs to complement each other, but do you see in David the potential to be contributor from day one?
For sure, yeah. He has the intelligence. He has the physical skill set. So for sure, definitely.
Can you describe sort of his combination of patience yet decisiveness?
Yeah, the great backs have that. So, and that comes with their vision and instincts. So there's certain times you need to stick your foot in the ground and go, and there's certain times you need to be a little more patient with how you run and let your blocks develop. and he has that. And I just think that comes with his natural vision for the position.
He led the nation in broken tackles for 2 straight years. How transferable of a skill is that when you're going from college to the pros?
I think especially when you play the level that he played at, and you see some full out blunt contact hits on him, and his ability to bounce off those and keep his feet. That's just like low center of gravity, strong lower body, really good balance. He has that. So when you think about his ability to break tackles, his ball security, very good in short yardage situations, there's just a lot of things that check off with him.
So he mentioned, if I heard his speech correctly, that he does some quarterbacking maybe as far back as high school. But does that open up possibilities like, let's say, Wildcat?
Yeah, with Coach Nagy, anything's a possibility. So I would think that's a possibility for sure.
What was your overall assessment of Henderson as a back?
Good, yeah. I think there's a group of backs that kind of went right in that area of the draft that all have different skill sets, and yeah, we liked him too. So, but we're happy with the guy we got.
Larry, you can.
There you go. Ryan Pace looking really pleased with the selection of David Montgomery. Among the things he talked about were that he's got natural hands. He's got route running capabilities. He's the type of guy who is very coachable and can learn how to run the routes that Matt Nagy is going to demand out of that position. Wasn't concerned about the combine numbers. Anything else that you got out of that, Cars?
Just the genuine excitement. You know, it wasn't just a position thing. It was definitely a player thing. I think he was right that, or one of the reporters was right that we all as fans fixated on the running back position. I don't ever think that they did. I think they fixated on the guy, and that's why he's so excited.
That's a great point. Shane, what were your thoughts about Ryan Pace's comments?
It kind of alludes to what I was talking about earlier, and it's what I want my GM to do at this point. Like I said, we know where the Bears are. We expected them to move a little bit more, further in the playoffs, but they're to the point now where they can pick and choose. They focus on their guys. They go get their guys. That's what teams like the Patriots do. The Patriots have that compacted list of prospects. We'll hear people say that they have a list of 125 or 250 players. The Patriots will work off a list of like 30, and they move around, manipulate the board, and they go get their guys. And I think you can't sit here and watch David Montgomery and not translate his skill set to this offense. Mm-hmm. He's a perfect fit. He's an absolutely perfect fit. And Ryan Pace said it. He was sitting up there and he was, kind of separated from the group. You do wonder if, would they have still, I don't know. Did it take the Henderson move? I wonder if they did have Henderson ranked higher. I don't know. You have that explosive factor. I don't know. I think Montgomery's more versatile overall than Henderson, myself, but I don't think he's anywhere near as explosive as Henderson. So, that's where you're getting into this poker game in the NFL draft because, did Pace catch wind that Buffalo was interested in Montgomery and moved up? Cars, you brought up Green Bay. It's a great point. It's a big poker game. But, no, I think the key thing is there, and Cars, you mentioned it too, is the confidence. You like to hear that. He didn't, this wasn't a Michael Haynes type situation where we got our guy. Okay, sure.
I got heartburn just thinking about that one right now.
Yeah. So it's, will he compete to be a day one starter? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely think so. If he's, it's not going to surprise me at all, but don't forget, this is a running back by committee thing, and I think this is where people get caught up into this. This isn't just going to be the David Montgomery show. He's not going to be a guy that you're handing the ball off to 25 times. It's going to be a committee approach. That's what Matt Nagy wants, and that's what he's got, and it's versatility plus.
Yeah, I think it's a good point there. When Henderson went in the third round to the Rams, the Rams picking the future after Gurley fails to show up for camp or gets injured or whatever. After the Rams select Henderson, then I got to believe that Ryan Pace is saying, okay, we had one other back ranked up there with Henderson, sort of a second-round talent, and that's David Montgomery. Are we going to sit here and take a chance that somebody's going to take him ahead of us? And so, we know Ryan Pace's reputation. He's aggressive when he wants his guy, and he gets it done. Cars, no regrets, right?
Absolutely none. No. I mean, I think that's always the key to the draft. You identify who you want. You identify what cost you're willing to pay for them, and if you can do that within those parameters, you absolutely get them 100% of the time.
And what are the concerns that you guys have regarding the 2020 draft now with no first rounder, no third rounder, and no fourth rounder?
Well, I think you got to look at what Shane said, right? We're going to have probably that compensatory pick for Amos there, right? We'll have an additional one. We have the second rounder from Oakland, which is going to be, especially the way they've drafted the last 2 days, a very high second rounder. So, I'm not really. Every draft is going to be different. This one was definitely more of a sweet spot between the third, fourth, and fifth rounds. But next year could be a little bit more top heavy, especially when you look at it's supposed to be very running back heavy as well. So I don't think there's any concerns, right? You're going to have more flexibility with that Raiders pick to move down, to pick up additional picks, to kind of restock like we saw Seattle do tonight and last night. So I don't have any concerns currently.
Great. Shane, you as well, correct?
Yeah, I totally agree. The 2 second rounders are key in this because, listen, you can move down and you can look what Seattle did. Seattle had the fewest.
They had 5
picks
coming into this. Yeah.
And now they just, you move back and accumulate picks. But listen, those 2 second rounders, the Bears can go fairly high into round 1 next year. So don't forget that. And it's not about bringing in tons of guys. They're in the talent acquisition business. If they see a guy falling in round 1 that they have ranked in their top 10, you're going to see those 2 second rounders go. Mm-hmm. And that's why they do it. And let's give our front office credit, Aldo and Cars, looking back to this Khalil Mack trade, because they had enough, they looked forward and saw what was coming down the pipeline. And, picking 24, we're not getting anybody that's in the stratosphere of Khalil Mack. And you look, perfect comp. Pick 24, the Oakland Raiders took Jacobs, running back from Alabama. Could you sit here and tell me with a straight face that he's a better running back than David Montgomery is in the NFL?
I couldn't even tell you at 4 that Farrell is as good of a pass rusher as Khalil Mack is.
Yeah,
So I mean,
excellent point.
There's no comparison.
So it's all about manipulating your board. And yes, I would love to go into a draft with 12 picks. Everybody would. Could that happen next year? Sure, it could. You can move those 2s. You can go anywhere. You can go way up. You can move. You can draft one guy at Oakland's pick and trade the other one down to get those assets back, no matter what. So don't worry about. Listen, this season coming up is about the fucking Super Bowl.
That's right.
This isn't worrying about the 2024 rounder.
Thank you.
Listen, this roster, the 2024 rounder, might not even make the team.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
It very well couldn't. We would think he would because of the way that Pace has shown his propensity to draft.
Yep.
But this is about the Lombardi. This isn't about 2020 draft picks right now. Go get your guys and make this run in your window.
Guys, you were going to say something?
No, he's 100% right? And this whole season isn't just going to be about these guys. We can't lose any of the belief in Trubisky going, right? We've still got Bilal Nichols, who I think is a guy who's got a lot more potential. Anthony Miller's going to be healthy, right? So all these guys were a young team, really, when you look at it, right? Kyle Long and Akeem Hicks are really the only old guys on the team that we're expecting a lot from. So adding draft picks right now, while we've got a rookie quarterback on a rookie scale contract, it's not as imperative as it is for like a Seattle right now that just threw a boatload of cash at Russell Wilson. So no, I completely agree with that.
Cars, I'm looking at some of the players picked after the Chicago Bears pick of Montgomery, and the one name that pops out here for me is Trey Pipkins, a guy that you were slamming the table for in our 7th round, the mock draft. He goes in the 3rd round, the 28th pick of the 3rd round to the LA Chargers. What did you see in Trey Pipkins that you liked so much?
Well, I mean, he's got all the intangibles and measurables that you want out of that position. What I don't understand is if he's sitting there going in the 3rd round, how Titus goes in the 1st round of the Texans. Because to me, they're very comparable players. They're not guys that are going to start, but they've got the size. And that's what I loved about Pipkins. He's got good footwork. He's got good size. He's got to grow into it. He's going to have to learn at a higher level. But he's definitely an intriguing prospect at that point.
And then barroom favorite O'Shane Zimenez went went to the Giants. I'm going to miss him. I would have loved to have seen him fall to the 4th round and the Bears picked him up. But good luck to O'Shane. He was very gracious in giving us a couple of interviews when we were down at the Senior Bowl. Anybody else in this 3rd round, Shane, that you look over this list and you want to comment on before we start talking about what the Bears could potentially do tomorrow?
Well, the one name that stands out to me a little bit is Carolina making the move for their quarterback. I don't know. You see, they drafted Will Grier.
Yeah.
And I think Cam's been beat up.
Yep.
And he's the one guy. I know people are all over the map on Grier. There was people that thought he could sneak into the end of round 1. There was people that thought he was going to be a day 3 pick. There was people that thought he'd be a high 2nd rounder. But that was the one that just kind of piqued my interest a little bit because what does it say about Cam moving forward? 3rd rounder, that's not a throwaway pick. Let's be completely honest.
Not at all. Not at all. I saw Will Grier at the Senior Bowl, but don't know much more about him. Cars, what did you see about Will Grier that you can share with our followers?
He's an interesting guy. I don't know that he's got the most amount of arm strength. He's got these great numbers in that wide open system. I just don't know how any of it really translates to the NFL, and I think that's why everything was all over the map. There are a lot of questions about arm strength. He's very accurate, but it's really going to be, just is he going to be able to drive that ball? Now, granted, there's not a lot of deep receiving threats in Carolina right now that he's going to have to worry about, but that would be the biggest concern for me with him.
Okay, tomorrow the draft starts at 10 a.m. Central, and the Chicago Bears have the 24th pick. So what are you guys thinking, 24th? I saw, who did I see in the chat room? It was Kieran, who had a list of his top players for the 4th round. The safety, Gardner Johnson, is still there. And then Christian Miller, Shane, who we've talked a lot about. Julian Love, the cornerback from Notre Dame, is still there, is still up there. Amani Hooker, Deonte Thompson are some of the names that he's listed. What's your gut feel, Shane? Maybe not so much about who the Bears might go after, but a name or two that you really would covet for that pick in the 4th round.
I'm all about getting another edge rusher. You guys know me. I mean, there's guys there. I haven't, being on here, I have the draft on in the background. Of course, it's on mute, and I got to look online. But I mean, you got guys, Joe Jackson, Aldo, DeAndre Walker, guys like that are out there. Chicago showing a ton of interest in that kid. So I think that's going to, Aldo, you made a great point, bringing in the all UGA linebacker core.
Can you imagine that?
But don't discount Sam Somerville. He makes his hay down there. One of the Bears' top scouts.
Yeah,
he loves those guys down there. He's he's a guy that unearthed Tariq Cohen. All of these guys, Roquan Smith, everybody knew about, obviously. But to me, I understand people are getting caught up on the safeties, but the Bears have their starters right now for 2019 an edge rusher is going to rotate in and is going to play significant snaps. A guy that if you go out and draft DeAndre Walker, he's going to play significant snaps for you in 2019.
Yes.
I feel like I can find you a safety. I'm all about these edge rushers. And I know this isn't going to make people happy. There's wide receivers out there that I love, and I would not be scared to draft one. I don't think Riley Ridley's went yet.
Nope.
I see Boykin ended up going to Cars. Your boy went to Baltimore, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He's gonna be taller than everybody else on that offense.
Yeah, but so like I said, to me, it's talent acquisition. Who knows what's going to happen? But to me, I'm staring right down the barrel at these edge prospects because I like Aaron Lynch, but Aaron Lynch's salary going from $5 million to $1 million tells you a whole lot about what the Chicago Bears think about Aaron Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Pat O'Donnell came back and got a goddamn raise for what he did last year. Aaron Lynch got a $4 million dock in pay. So go get me another guy that can get after the quarterback.
Absolutely, and you just never know. Shimon and I talked about this in this morning's DOT. Is you just never know with Leonard Floyd. He's coming up on this contract option year. What if you don't land an edge rusher in this draft? Are you going to automatically, I think it's May 2nd where they have to make that decision, are you automatically just going to say, okay, we've got to pick up that option for the 5th year? Or if you do pick up a guy like Christian Walker or Joe Jackson, do you maybe wait a little bit and then during the season you see how Floyd is playing, and then you choose to extend his contract, or you try to work with him to extend his contract? Any thoughts on how the Floyd situation might factor into picking an edge player?
I'm picking up Leonard Floyd's
regardless
option.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
100%. Is he perfect? No. Did he improve? Yeah, a whole bunch. I don't want to play any head games with Leonard Floyd because I'm not sure if he's. I think things like that, I think he's the type of guy that stuff like that affects him, and I don't want him going into this season with any doubt. When these options are picked up, it's guaranteed for injury. Don't forget about that.
That's correct.
So that's a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. And the way that Leonard Floyd was playing towards the end of the year, mid to the end of the year, he's going to be deserving of that anyway. I think a lot of people didn't like Leonard Floyd from the beginning, so they didn't really give him a fair shake, which I never agreed with. He showed a whole bunch, and obviously you can't tell me that playing with a club when you're a guy that's based on your speed and athleticism, that's 100% going to affect you.
Absolutely.
100%. Vic Fangio doesn't bullshit. Mm-hmm. He said it himself 2 or 3 times. It does. So, yeah, that's a guy you put out there. You pick up his option 100%. You move forward, and I'm not going to rely on do I like Isaiah Irving? Yeah, like him. Is he going to prevent me from drafting DeAndre Walker tomorrow if he's available? Nope, absolutely not. Not what this is about. I want the best guys out there. And can you have enough of these guys, Cars? Nope,
never.
Can't.
Never.
Cars, what's your feeling about tomorrow, the round 4 pick?
I'm looking a lot at cornerback as well. I think that's the other position that you can't have enough. If you look at the list, you mentioned Julian Love, but a guy that I'm really high on is a boomer bust, and Isaiah Johnson out of Houston, right? Big, tall, fast. He's someone that's going to need a lot of coaching, and thankfully we've got a guy who likes to coach defensive back, so he's someone that makes sense. And then maybe they would take a look at a Jimmy Moreland as kind of a sleeper pick there. That's a guy that I really like out of James Madison, who's really good in coverage. I think that's the other position that they'll look, right? So as Fuller's contract becomes more cap friendly to cut, as Prince's contract becomes more cap friendly to cut, we're in this. When you say player acquisition, we're also in player backfill, right? So we got to start to get ready as these guys get more expensive, or can we draft a wide receiver, to your point, that maybe makes Taylor Gabriel expendable next year, and when we can save $4.5 million? all that stuff really adds up. But I'm really spending a lot more time thinking about cornerbacks and thinking that's where they're going to go.
All right. I am going to try to get Mr. Danny Shimon in on this call. So Shane and Cars, start thinking about who you want to see on. Danny's furiously texting me, please, I need to get on. Start thinking about the pick for the 6th round, because we now will have no 5th rounder.
6th round pick is going to be tough. I really feel like right around the end of the 5th is when this thing just the wheels fall off, and this could be one of those places where you're just looking at a trait, right? You're just looking at one potential trait that you're going to pick up on, and you're looking at somebody that's going to be special teams. So if we don't get our edge rusher by 4, we're not getting him in the 6th. We're not going to have another Kylie Fitz situation.
Look back to our mock draft when I drafted a guy like Kendall Sheffield. He's a guy, and maybe you can store him for a year, and that's a huge part of it too. Yeah. Finding guys like that, if there's traits, and you want guys with upside that, hey, that pec is giving you a little bit of problem, maybe we'll put you on IR, shelve you for the year, and that's all part of it. But, I think an interesting thing to talk about, and I know when Danny gets on here, he can talk about it too, is in terms of moving forward in this draft, look at Isaiah Irving and Kylie Fitz versus Michael Joseph and Kevin Tolliver.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Look at that positional group that we're talking about, and who, to me, overall, I'm higher on those 2 corners than I am on the 2 edge guys overall. So I think that's something that's going to be interesting moving forward. Does that mean that Ryan Pace and Josh Lucas are? No, it doesn't mean that at all, but it's going to be interesting. But overall, even if there's a corner there, if there's an edge rusher tomorrow available, I can't pass up an edge guy tomorrow if there's one there that I like. Just can't do it.
Let's welcome in Danny Shimon. Danny, are you there?
Hey, guys. How are you?
We are doing well. We've celebrated. We've been talking Bukaki, the guy from...
Yeah, Danny, Peter Bukaki said that the Bears traded Jordan Howard, and they just drafted a slower Jordan Howard. How do you like that?
Who's Peter Bukaki?
Exactly.
I don't know, but there's a lot of milk on his face.
Well, if he wants to give me his address, I can send him some tape of our new running back, Mr. David Montgomery, and show him the difference between his ability to run and to be shifty in between the tackles, to change directions, and Jordan Howard. Again, I don't want to knock Jordan Howard. I don't want to sound like I'm knocking Jordan Howard, but it's a totally different running back. This guy, you guys know, Shane and Aldo and Matt, I've said it before, this guy, my opinion, was the best fit for this offense. I know he doesn't have the home run hitting speed that we've been saying that Matt Nagy's been looking for, but he ran a 4.640, I want to say, a 4.640, I want to say, and then, but what's his name, ran a 4.6240, Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt had, tremendous success in the same offense. So a lot of times it's not the straight line speed, but its ability to cut, to create the vision, to be able to, go between the tackles, to make defenders miss in short confined spaces, So that's what I love about this pick and about this kid. Plus, I haven't even started talking about his ability in the passing game. This guy, to me, is a tremendous pass catcher out of the backfield. At Iowa State, not only did he run wheel routes out of the backfield, he also lined them up in the slot. He ran routes. He is one of, if not the best, pass blocking running back in this draft, in my opinion. So already you got a guy that I think will obviously come in next year and be a part of the rotation. And I'm not going to go out and say he's going to be the starter, but it would not surprise me by mid-season to later on in the season that he is the full-time starter for the Bears.
Guys, you want to respond to what Danny just shared?
He sucks, Danny. Come on. I'm kidding. No, I think
Hey, Peter, nice meeting you. How are you, Peter?
I think we're all very happy. And Danny, you would have to agree. I mean, being a scout, and our GM read the board the correct way. As soon as you saw Henderson go, he made his
You
move.
saw that run going. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you get to listen to his press conference about Montgomery?
No, unfortunately, I had some family emergency. I had some family come over, so I wasn't had a chance to really dig into that yet.
Yeah, well, he made the comment that Montgomery was just kind of standing out on their board, and he was working the phones pretty hard. And he said we've had a history of trading with New England, so we made that move. And Danny, this is what it's all about. It's about seeing your guy and going and getting your guy, and not taking that chance. If the guy's there, you go get him. When you're a potential Super Bowl contender, it's not like getting a quarterback, but you can't pass on the guys that you have earmarked that are perfect fits for your team. If they're there, give up the compensation, go get your guy. David Montgomery is worth more than the picks, hopefully, that we gave up. And like I said, the fourth rounder next year is tough, but you can always manipulate your board next year to recoup that pretty easily. And we still have the potential of getting a comp pick for Amos.
Exactly, and you hit it all on the head right there, Shane. First of all, in this morning show on the Draft on Tap, Aldo asked me if I thought Ryan Pace could trade up, and I said I would never put anything past him. We've seen him in his past. We've seen his record. If he sees a guy out there that he feels is a difference maker, someone that will come in and be a perfect fit, whether it's on defense or offense, he's aggressive. He goes up and he gets his guy. Whether it's Anthony Miller last year, Khalil Mack, even Mitch Trubisky, he identifies a player he wants and he goes up and gets it. Just imagine if Phil Emery had the same gumption, if you will, to go up and make a play for the guy he wanted.
Donald.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
He thought Aaron Donald was going to come to him, and then what happened? The Rams got him right before. This guy is a player you want. This is a guy that's going to come in and be a difference maker. You go get him. That fourth round pick they gave up, that's probably going to be, like I said, a comp pick from Amos. They could probably recoup that way. So it's something that they got a 6th round pick back in this trade. They didn't have a 6th round pick going into the draft. So yeah, now they lost their 5th. So now they have a 6th. But again, he saw this guy, and this is something that I've been saying, throughout this draft process. To me, Montgomery was the top back in this draft, and he'd be a perfect fit in his offense. And I just love the fact that Pace did it again. He found the guy, he went up, he had the courage to go and get his guy and get that playmaker. And I think now, in terms of going on in this draft, I think now you have to concentrate on that edge rusher, possibly a safety. There's a couple of guys still left on the board the last time I checked that I really, really like. So unfortunately, they don't have the ammunition, I don't believe, unless they once again dip into next year's draft class, which I really don't want to do. But to trade up in this 4th round and get a safety, a kid like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is still out there from Florida, which I'm pretty surprised he's still out there. Christian Miller, an edge guy that we all like, is still out there. So there's still tons of players out there. There's still some receivers out there. Hakeem Butler. I know receiver is not a position of need for the Bears, but guys like that, guys with value at this point, are still out there.
Aldo, I would like to run something by Danny, and I'm not trying to rain on the parade here of our new shiny new toy, but Danny, speak to some of maybe the potential concerns that you may have about David Montgomery at the NFL level, or some of his negatives that you think he needs to work on.
The main negative, really, and I'm looking at my notes here in terms of when I studied his tape. Basically, I just put down not a dynamic athlete. Doesn't possess elite speed, but that top gear to pull away from the pack. Gets tracked down from behind. Not elusive in the open field. Cannot really string moves together like in an open field to break away from 2-3 defenders. Something like we saw with say Singletary. He's got those quick feet, Singletary that is, and he can make those stop-start cuts. And get away from 1 or 2 defenders in the open field. But in terms of everything else, in terms of running in between the tackles, in terms of being a pass catcher out of the backfield, in terms of vision, in terms of pass blocking, this kid has everything. And he's got the size and the ability to be a bell cow running back. He's not a guy that's going to be part of a rotation. He's a guy that potentially could be a starter and a guy who could carry that offense, by himself.
Over at NFL.com, a anonymous scouting director with an AFC team said this about David Montgomery. That's my guy. If he gets with the right team, he's going to be the best running back to come out of this class, and you won't have to draft him early either. That's high praise from this AFC scouting director, and we've seen that kind of praise come from draft evaluators, people who are paid for this. We talked about what Shanka and Gabriel said earlier. This is really great news for Chicago Bears fans. We can argue, about moving up and investing draft capital. We can argue about that. I think that's a safe argument. But anybody that looks at this back and says, I don't know about him, I don't think he's going to play well in the NFL, then you really, really need to look at some more tape, reevaluate this player, because what we have seen on tape and what our draft analysts here, Matt Carstensen, Danny Shimon, Shane Marsall, have seen over and over again. These are guys that hit rewind and watch the guy do that play again and see how he landed his foot. These guys know that this guy can play, and from guys like me who pick up a lot of our information from reading reports and so forth, the evaluations are all very, very positive. So we should all be very, very pleased. All right, Danny, we were talking about round 4, and you started to mention some names. Any other names that you want to mention there as potential players that you'd like to see Pace pick up with that, the 24th pick of the 4th round?
I haven't had a chance to go through the entire list in terms of who's still available, but I did see that, the guy from Florida, my guy, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, is still out there. We mentioned earlier Christian Miller is still out there, an edge guy. I know Justin Hollins from Oregon is still out there, but he's more of a later round guy, maybe a guy we could target in the 6th round. He's an edge guy that we both Shane and I liked. Anybody else?
Joe Jackson and DeAndre Walker.
Joe Jackson,
available.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Joe Jackson and DeAndre Walker got two guys that Joe Jackson especially. I mean, I'm really, really high on Joe Jackson. I'm surprised he's still available.
Amani Hooker, the safety from Iowa. What are your thoughts on him? And Julian Love, the cornerback from Notre Dame.
Julian Love, I do like. Amani, I see him more as a cover 2 base safety. I don't know if I trust him if you ever ask him to play any sort of single high safety. I don't know if he's got the range to be able to cover from sideline to sideline. So I see him more as a base cover 2 guy, someone who would play maybe like in a Dallas system or something like like the Bears used to have under Lovie Smith. That's who I see him. His speed to be able to cover and to drop back and get the range, like I said, from sideline to sideline, it's not there for me. I think I see him more like a hybrid guy that's up in the box, maybe a strong safety. I know Iowa played him closer to a line of scrimmage, and that's where he started making some plays. So I really don't see him as a guy, as a safety option for the Bears, really.
Pace sounded very confident in the in the press conference after the selection of Montgomery. He sounded very confident that the Bears were going to land some good players on Saturday's portion of the draft, and I have to agree with him, because as I look at the list of players who are still available, it's going to be hard to almost miss. We've got to cross our fingers on a few of these guys to drop to 24, but there's a pretty good list here of really good players. All right, let's talk about there's no 5th round pick. We were in the middle of talking about 6th round pick when you joined us, Danny. And Cars, why don't you pick up? I think we were in the middle of getting your evaluation of these potential 6th round picks. We now have that pick from the New England Patriots. I think it's the 33rd pick. It's a 33rd overall pick. Any thoughts on landing a player there that perhaps is a developmental player, or are you potentially looking at a kicker to
Robbie Gould?
Robbie Gould.
What are your thoughts, Cars?
So I think what Shane and I were kind of discussing is if you look at the way the draft is falling, that edge would make a lot more sense in the 4th, and that you're probably looking more at around a cornerback in a 6th. So I mentioned Jimmy Moreland is someone that I like. He's someone that can definitely be there in the 6th round. But you're really just looking for 1 to 2 traits plus special teams at that point. So That'd be a guy that, if he's there, that I'd be all over, right? He'd probably be your Buster Screen replacement here in the future, but that's really the only name that jumps out. Otherwise, I can't even begin to tell you at the 6th round.
Yeah, really.
With guys going that are like 6th rounders going in the 2nd round at this point.
How about it?
If Mike Mayock keeps drafting, I'll be out of candidates at that point.
Shane,
The one thing, if I can jump in here real quick,
Please, go
is
ahead.
I know on our show, the roundtable we had, Bobby Baums was saying about inside linebacker, and there's 2 guys out there just glaring at me in terms of need right now, or in terms of value. At Terrell Hanks from New Mexico State is still out there, and Mac Wilson from Alabama is still out there.
Yeah.
Now,
Bobby brought up Mac Wilson probably a good solid month ago to talk to me about it, and those are guys that these guys drop. Look at last year in round 4 when we took Iggy. I didn't think that Ryan Pace is going to go best available, and we don't know where. We don't know what's next. We really don't. Danny, I brought it up with these guys. Who knows if it's a wide receiver?
There's a ton of wide receivers out there as well. Kelvin Harmon's still out there. Our guy, Riley Ridley is still out there. Exactly. David Sills, Ty Brady still out there. A guy that I think is really underrated. Actually, a couple guys. Jacoby Myers from NC State is still out there. Dylan Mitchell from Oregon is still out there. Penny Hart, I know a guy that we all like here, is still out there. My guy Keelan Doss is still out there. I mean, tons of talent at the receiver position, and don't be surprised that they go receiver here. The only unfortunate thing, and it hurt, was the Packers got Jace Sternberger right after we took.
We talked about that.
We covered it.
That was tough, man. That was like, I hate seeing that guy go to them.
Every time someone mentions it, I cry a little bit more. So let's please move on.
But the run on tight ends started happening there too. So, if we're looking at potential guys in the 4th round, this might be a reach. I don't know what you guys think, but how about Caden Smith from Stanford? He's still out there. Alize Mack, I know. Shane, you're a fan of his. Do you want to wait till we don't have a 5th round now, but do you want to wait till the 6th round? For him, do you just bypass tight end this year? Like we saw the guys just flying off the boards here in the later portions of the 2nd and early 3rd round. So that was that spot where the run took off, and then you saw a little bit of a run on the running backs, and that's when Pace, like we said earlier, Pace kind of jumped up. So all right, let me get my guy and just get out of here with my guy and don't have to worry about it.
One thing that I think is important that we have to do, and fans listening in can do this too, when you go through and everybody's going to go to NFL.com and check out best available or whatever site that they go to, look in their draft guides, blah, blah, blah. Don't forget the golden nugget that Ryan Pace talked about, 18 to 20 UDFA signings. So this is where you have to see the talent pool. You're not going to find edge rushers in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds and in the UDFA market. Danny, you know that. Cars, you know that. These guys start to go, and once they go, they go quick. Is DeAndre Walker perfect? No, he's not. He's got tools to work with, though. That's why I think I could be completely wrong. You have to look at this entire pool and see. They very well could go out and find their tight end in the UDFA market. They're obviously high on Ben Broniker. That's where they found him. And that's the way that these things happen, and that's where you have to kind of look at a bigger picture here moving forward. Because I just don't think you're going to find a potential edge rusher late. And to me, Danny, we talked about 2 or 3 of these guys on our list that are staring us right in the face tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Christian Miller.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Shimon.
I'll say Christian Miller. I mean, right there, that's a guy that I am very, very fond of in terms of a prospect. DeAndre Walker, again, another guy that I like a lot. So, yeah, if those guys are still there, I mean, it's going to be hard to pass up.
Both the Oregon guys are still there too, right? So you got Hollins and Jelks both still there as well.
Jelks, what do you guys? To me, Jelks.
I'm not quite as high on them.
I'm not. Yeah,
I don't see the twitch there that I want to see. He's a little bit gangly, but like I said,
Go ahead.
I like Hollins. Yeah, I like Hollins much better. Danny,
Hollins,
we covered him, yeah.
Yeah, Hollins has that twitch factor, the athleticism we look for on the outside. He's not fully developed yet in terms of being the complete package, but he's a guy maybe you can get with a sixth, maybe a seventh. I don't know if he'll drop that far down because he's got those physical traits that a team may grab him just based on his traits alone. But if you can get him in the sixth round, that's a guy I would like to bring in and have developed here. We talked about it on our preview show where we previewed the edge rushers. He's a guy that's athletic. He fits the bill in terms of size, speed, measurables. But he's a guy that will need some work, and you can bring him into the system, develop him, get him contributing on special teams, put him in the pipeline, if you will, and then eventually you could have yourself a player there in a year or two. So, but yeah, he's a guy that I do like, but obviously not early on in the fourth round. More so if we go in the sixth, seventh round.
There is another position I think that this team needs to address. It's the safety position because Danny and I were talking about the Adam Johns article that was in The Athletic today. Johns looked at the salary cap situation with the Bears, and looking ahead, you've got to believe that Eddie Jackson is probably going to demand one of the biggest contracts ever, if not the biggest contract ever for a safety when he's eligible after the 2019 season. So Clinton-Dix surely is a one-year rental. If he has a good season, there's no way you're going to pay him $9-10 million and then another $15+ million for your safeties. So aside from Deion Bush, this team needs to bring in some safeties to compete and perhaps be the Robin to Eddie Jackson's Batman. One of the names that Danny brought up, and I'd like you, Danny, to kind of repeat why you love this kid so much, is Malik Gant. Tell us about this kid from Marshall and the traits that you like about him, and where do you kind of see him going? Do you see him maybe lasting to the sixth round?
Yeah, Gant is a guy, earlier I was talking about, I was trying to fulfill in the safety position, a guy who could give you some versatility, a guy who can come in and not only be someone who could defend the back half of the defense, but also maybe line up as a nickel corner, possibly cover slot receivers or those tight ends that line up in the slot. And guys that I named, pretty much were, Juan Thornhill and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Mike Edwards. Those guys are pretty much gone except for Gardner-Johnson. But Malik Gant is the guy that I don't see him having the ability to be a cover guy, but he's a guy that will bring that enforcer type, to backfield. So if you want to say a poor man's Adrian Amos, if you will, he's only about 5'10", 5'11", but he's a guy that will run to the ball. And in terms of run defense, he's strong. He comes up and he supports strong. Like I said, he brings that presence, that presence where if someone goes across the middle, they're going to get hit. So I do like him. He's a smart kid. He's a guy, did you watch his tape? He's lining up his teammates. So you can see he's a leader on defense. So he's a guy that I think would come in and could potentially become a starter. I don't think, right away, obviously, but he's a guy that can come in and develop, special teams. And then eventually a year or two, you could see him catapult himself into a starter position. But he's more of that physical enforcer type as opposed to some of the other guys I was talking about, which give you that flexibility where they can cover and also drop back and give you some, back half coverage as well.
Cars, any safeties that you look at on your list of players that you think could be a potential good investment in the sixth or maybe even seventh round?
I don't really see a whole lot there, right? I think at that point, if you're looking, they're going to probably be looking more at some corners that they think have size, that have safety abilities. I just don't see the safety being that deep. Once the run happens here, probably in round 4, for me, the safety is just a no-go area.
Shane, you feel the same way?
Well, I'm not trying to play Homer here, but one guy that does interest me a little bit is Deonte Thompson.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah? Sorry, I didn't hit you. Sorry.
You're talking about traits that you want to see, and you get him into the system. Is obviously he's not a perfect guy, but Aldo, before we forget here, I want to throw out one name when we're talking about tight ends. Is I don't know, maybe you guys think this is a little bit early, but Foster Moreau is still out there from LSU, and to me that's a pace type guy when you're talking about, I think he's got the athletic traits that you want to see, plus the blocking ability. And let's not forget that we just drafted a running back. So this is going to be a big part of this offense, obviously, moving forward. So Foster Moreau is a guy that I'm going to keep my eye on tomorrow too. But,
Hey,
Danny,
Shane,
how do you feel? Yeah.
Let me interrupt a second. I got a quick Foster Moreau story. We're down at the Senior Bowl, and I'm looking for Cole Tracy because at that time I had a Cole Tracy crush. And
First rounder? I remember this one.
Yeah,
I remember this one.
I don't anymore, but I was looking for him so I could get a quick interview with him. And so we're seated just outside the.
You told me about it.
Yeah. So there's this player being interviewed by a radio station, and Danny says to me, "There's your guy, Cole Tracy, right there." And I'm looking at the guy, and I go, "Holy cow, this guy is effing built, man! He's got calves the size of my arms. This guy is huge." And so I'm waiting there for about 20 minutes. This radio interview is taking forever, and finally he gets up, and I run over to him with my microphone, and I say, "Hey, man, can I talk to you just for a few minutes?" He goes, "Yeah, can we walk and talk?" And I go, "Well, I prefer to, I'm going to videotape you, so I prefer not to." He goes, "Okay, fine." So he turns around, we get set, and I just happened to look at his name tag. It's not Cole Tracy, it's Foster Moreau. And I'm like thinking, well, this makes sense because this guy is about 10 times the size of your average kicker. Thanks, Danny.
That was. I felt bad because I had to walk away to go. I thought I was going to go do another interview, and I said, "Hey, I think that's your guy," because I saw LSU. He had LSU pants on, or was it socks he had on?
Yeah, I think
I'm like, that's
socks.
your guy. And yeah, it turned out to be. When he tells me the story later on, I felt bad because I'm like, oh, I set him up for that. But,
Thanks. I'll get you next time. Don't worry.
But getting real back to safety guys, a guy that I didn't mention earlier, Aldo, and is a guy that I do like, but I do want to study a little bit more. Is this kid Sheldrick Redwine from Miami? I know his teammate Jaquan Johnson got a lot of the pub and a lot of the headlines, but this kid, if you look at his measurables, he's 6 feet, 196 pounds. He ran a 4.4 40. He has a 39-inch vertical. Okay, so this kid is athletic, and in terms of coverage, I mean, he's not. From what I saw when I was studying his teammate Johnson, I'd see him. He'd come up and he'd pop. So basically, what he'd do is you'd see him come up and run defense, and he'd lay into a running back, or in terms of pass coverage, he got beat a couple times, but it looked more like technique than talent what got him beat. So maybe that's something you can coach up. So I do have to do some more research on him. But if he's out there, we're talking again 6th round, that kind of area. He's a guy I would like to take a flyer on if some of the other guys we were talked about are already off the board. So keep your eye on that kid. Sheldrick Redwine.
Sheldrick Redwine, yeah. So we were talking about a little bit about tight ends. So, Danny, your thoughts on tight ends that could be available later in the draft?
Well, this will make one barely somewhat happy. Trayvon Wesco is still going to probably be available later on in the draft. Caden Smith is a guy I do like, a guy from Stanford. I know, Shane, you weren't that high on him, but he's a guy I like a lot. If he's a guy that if he's available in the 4th round, they pluck him there, I wouldn't be upset. Isaac Nada, the kid from Georgia, he's a guy that he's more of a move tight end, and he tries to line up and block. He'll give you effort, but he's not really a great inline blocker. If you're looking for a guy that does both in terms of lining up as a wide tight end and being a blocker and a pass catcher, Caden Smith and Foster Moreau, I think right now are probably the best ones out there. Dax Raymond, our guy from Utah State, is still out there, but he's more of a move tight end. Let's see, and then some of the other guys, I'm trying to think who else here was left. I mean, that's pretty much it.
You like Sweeney from Boston College?
Not a big fan of Sweeney. I don't know if you remember the comment I made at the weigh-in, Aldo. He had the worst body I'd seen.
That guy
at the combine. Yeah, that was the guy. It just looked like me taking off my shirt and going up there. It just didn't look right.
You and Tom Brady.
But, yeah.
Danny, do you think this is going off what we're talking about a little bit? Do you think that there's any potential for Julian Love to play safety?
Interesting. Well, why you like him better at safety, or do you think?
No. I'm just saying, I'm looking at guys that are available, and like Cars was talking about, you're looking at guys that maybe you can, move around. Do you think that there's any potential for him to move there to be a full-time safety? It's a guy you're putting him behind, for a year to learn the position moving forward, and it's a guy that could fill in, obviously, at cornerback for you along the way if you have to. But do you think that there's any potential there in his game where he could possibly project to safety?
That's interesting because now we're projecting him at a position that I haven't seen him play at. I mean, I would like to try him at corner if I have him. If he fails there miserably, then I wouldn't mind moving him to safety. But they say typically for corners, move to safety is much easier than vice versa, going from safety to corner, obviously. So
it's easier to go back than it is frontwards.
Yeah.
That's normally what they'll say.
Yeah. So that's the thing is I would love to get my hands on him and try him at corner, and I don't see why he would fail at corner. But I don't see why he would not be able to play safety as well, because I think his primary strength is off coverage and having his eyes in the backfield and being able to click and then transition forward. So obviously safety, you have your eyes in the backfield, you're looking at the quarterback, and everything's coming up in front of you. You can utilize that quickness, that speed to be able to click and attack downhill. So I don't see why he couldn't play safety, but I definitely would like to try him at corner first.
Any of you guys seen tape on this 6'8" tight end from that tiny school, Stetson? What's his name? I had it right.
Parham, Donald Parham.
That's him. What do you think? Have you seen anything on him, Cars?
No, I've just seen a 6'8" tight end, and in my old life, we always believed that if you were over 6'7", you were too tall to play in the NFL. So
he's got your Trevelizer out from the
Trevelizer. Yeah, the Trevelizer is out. No, I haven't seen anything on him at all. He's intriguing I think he's a former power forward, if I remember correctly, but I haven't seen any actual football film on him.
Danny, your boy Waring is still out there, correct?
Yes, he is.
No, he was taken.
Oh, that's right. He was.
Third round. Yeah, he was taken third round.
I think a couple of picks right after.
I guess I must have missed that one.
Yeah, it was a couple of picks after the Montgomery pick.
It was during the tight end run.
I forgot who took him. I think it was Texans who took him. Houston took him.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. He was a guy that him and Sternberger, those two guys going was like, oh man. I was really hoping one of those two guys would somehow end up in the fourth round for the Bears to pick, but the Texans, I believe, are the ones that picked them up. Actually, it doesn't have them listed under the Texans, so I'm not sure who got
Yes,
him.
he did. Yeah, he went 86 overall.
Oh, okay, because I'm looking at the website and they don't have him listed under Houston yet, so maybe just need to update that.
So he went one pick before our original draft slot.
Yeah. Yep.
86, okay. All right, guys, it is time to get some final thoughts here. Let's go around the horn. Let's start with our special guest, Cars, who came in at the last minute, and as he did the night before, just hit it out of the park. Cars, any thoughts you want to share on what transpired today and looking forward to Saturday's draft?
It was a lot of fun today because there's just so many moves that you kept watching and laughing at and head scratching. I continue to say I'm thrilled with the Montgomery pick. I think it's going to add another dimension to our offense. My take for tomorrow is tight end is out. I think they're higher on Shaheen and they expect big things for him. So I'm going to look at a very defensive focus for the remainder of the draft for us.
Excellent. Shane, the smartest man in the barroom, Marsaw. I know you're so happy. Is that the champagne I see you drinking there, Shane, or am I confused?
That I was drinking earlier? No, it's the old summer shandy.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah.
The champagne of beers. Yeah.
There you go.
So Aldo, you'll love to see this.
What's that?
Old Aaron Nagler. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Oh, that guy who covers the Packers, who looks like he's a pain in the ass. What's he got to say?
He sent out a tweet on April 26, 2019 at 8:47 p.m. that said, "All I want is David Montgomery in a Packers uniform. Is that too much to ask?"
I love it. Aaron is actually a good guy, and one of the only people who writes and covers the Green Bay Packers who has been critical of Aaron Rodgers, and that's one of the reasons I respect Mr. Nagler. He tells it like it is. He loves the Packers, but he's not afraid to call Aaron Rodgers out. Shane, some final thoughts?
No, the biggest thing that I take away from is something that I've touched on twice tonight already. My GM saw his guy and he went and got him, and I don't think that can be undersold. He's not scared of what people are going to think. He saw his quarterback 2 years ago and he didn't give a fuck. He went and got him, and that's exactly what I want. Yes, we love more picks, but you know what? I'd rather have my guy than a couple of other, potential question marks. This roster is so deep. That's why it's even more important to get your guy. You go out and you have, say if the Bears had 12 picks this year, they're not all going to make the team.
Right.
It's just the way that it is. And he focused on Montgomery, and he went and got him. And that's all I want from my GM. Bringing up Phil Emery, Danny, that was a great point, because we sat there and it was a Chicago Bears thing. I wanted Aaron Donald, boom, picked before us. I wanted Leonard Williams, boom, picked before us. You can't sit back. Ryan Pace did it with Leonard Floyd, jumping ahead of the Giants. Who knows with Mitch? There was talk of Cleveland. Who knows what happened? And now here we are, 2019, sitting. He saw David Montgomery, and rather than facing him potentially in Green Bay, now he's in the Windy City, and he's going to be scoring touchdowns on Week 1 versus Green Bay.
Can we all just enjoy that Taquan Maisel will never touch a football in a Bears uniform ever again?
Well said. Danny,
there is training camp. He still might get some carries in training camp.
No.
Can he play safety, Danny?
Danny, you got the floor.
Yeah, echoing what the guys have already said. This was my top running back in the draft. Super excited when I saw him, when I saw the Bears go up and get him. I said all along this guy was a perfect fit in his offense, and obviously Matt Nagy and the rest of the staff agreed. So they went and got the guy. And then I echo again what Shane just said. Pace, I love his aggressiveness. I love that he identifies a player, identifies a need, and they go up and get him. Now, I think sitting back here looking at this, it's got to be either edge rusher or a safety. If you want Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, go get him. I know you don't have much draft capital, but like Shane said, you're going to have a lot of undrafted free agents that you can probably bring in that can probably compete for roster spots. So, I hate giving up more picks, but again, if you can fortify a position of need, and it's either got to be a safety or edge rusher, probably edge rusher more, I'd say right now, than safety. But it's a toss-up for me. But if you get a guy like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, or a kid like DeAndre Walker, or Christian Miller, if you want him, go get him. Because like I said, if you sit back and wait, you might not get him, and then next thing you know, you're picking guys that might not even compete for a roster spot. So the Bears are off to a great start. Got the best running back in the draft, in my opinion, and now we just move on forward to day 3 and see what they can do there.
Well, I got to tell you, I headed into today's draft thinking that it was possible that the Chicago Bears were going to bypass a running back in this round and maybe pick one up late on day 3. As Shane will tell you over and over and over again, Aldo was wrong again. But I love the analysis that you guys have offered and the comments in the chat room that David Montgomery is just a perfect fit for this team. And I love the philosophy that Ryan Pace has. When he's confident about a player, he's going to go after him. That's the type of aggressive nature this organization has needed for a long, long time. And it's paying off. And if Ryan Pace continues to hit on those mid and late round draft picks, as he's shown a propensity to do, then this truly will be a year where it's Super Bowl or bust. Now, we have seen, I hate to say this, Shane, but we have seen the Philadelphia Eagles make some pretty good improvements to that effing team.
Never heard of them. Never heard of them. And they love Jordan Howard so much, they drafted Miles Sanders in round 2.
You know, I thought of that. I saw that pick, and I'm like, poor Jordan Howard. I mean, he can't catch a break.
I tweeted that out too.
I got to share a story with you guys. I shared it with Aldo. My son is getting into the draft process more and more, and I'll put some little highlight packages on his iPad so he can watch, and I kind of let him pick out the guys that he likes, and I don't say too much to him. Well, the one guy that he absolutely fell in love with this year was Miles Sanders. So, and you know my propensity with the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, I was getting the picks a little bit early before they were announced, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Philadelphia Miles Sanders. So Riley was in the kitchen. I'm like, hey, bud, you got to come here. Philadelphia's on the clock. Who do you think you're going to take? So he sits down and had the phone out recording him, and they get up there, and Philadelphia Eagles select Miles Sanders. And if you want to talk about a 8-year-old kid that looked like he took a swift kick right to the ball sack, that was him. I felt bad. I thought he was going to start crying because of all teams, Philadelphia, because he hates them like Daddy does.
Well, you're raising your son well to hate the Eagles,
right.
And I'm sure he hates the Packers too and the other NFC North teams.
He knows.
That's great. All right, I want to remind people that this show will be out on the podcast version, and so those of you, we had a great turnout in the live Mixler chat room here. Please do me a favor and retweet it out so that other people can get in on the fun. And then on Sunday, we're back here on Mixler for a live show that's going to start at 10 a.m. Central, and it's scheduled for 2 hours. So who knows? It could go an hour or it could go 6 hours. More likely closer to 6 hours. I am lining up a cavalcade of draft analysts and people who are friends at the bar room. We're going to have, the plan is to have a new guest every 15, 20 minutes or so we'll see how that goes. We're going to have tons of fun and expert analysis. That, again, is on Sunday at 10 a.m. Central. I also want to remind people that there's a new podcast out called I Have a Stream that's produced and hosted by John Santucci.
No, you don't, Aldo. That's the worst part of your day. You have no stream. It shoots everywhere, you said.
Yeah, it's not my stream. It's Tucci's stream we're talking about now. Yeah, my stream has definitely got a problem. I got to go talk to my doctor. But this podcast, I Have a Stream, is really an outstanding piece of work by John Santucci and his co-producer Joey Two Scoops. And I know those guys are planning on a Barfly's box office podcast to talk about this new Avengers movie, but talk about bukkake. Holy cow. The fans of that movie are like bukkaking all over themselves. So be looking for that podcast. And we've got a special announcement regarding the Mike North Advantage coming up. So lots of stuff happening here at the bar room. If you're missing 100 proof, don't worry. It's going to be back in May, and we're going to have some fun. And it's going to be a whole new special Bears 100 proof. So lots of stuff happening here at Bears Bar Room. Hope you stick with us. Hope you tell everybody about what we're doing. And remember, if you drink, please don't drive, and always bear down.
Bear down. David Montgomery, keep number 32. The running back number. Love it.
Oops.